If you think the secret to making positive change is just more willpower, I'm afraid you're wrong. People think that if they were just more organized, more motivated, more locked in, that their eating, training, phone habits, and even their procrastination would all suddenly just fall into line. But if willpower actually worked, boot camps would have cured obesity, January resolutions would stick forever, and failure wouldn't be so, well, guaranteed. Yet every year, millions of people do everything right and still rebound. That's because behavior is not a character issue, it's a nervous system issue. Hey, I'm Danny, owner and head coach at OPEX Bristol, and I try to make more complex ideas about health, fitness, and behavior change understandable, and more importantly, actionable. So here's the story we've all seen 100 times, right? Someone joins the gym in January. They're motivated. They've watched the videos, they've made the plan. And for 2 or 3 weeks, things are perfect. But then work gets busy, sleep drops, and life gets a little loud. They end up missing a couple of sessions and they start to feel behind. And instead of just doing less, they hit the fuck it button. They binge. The gym becomes just another X and they ghost it like it never existed. And they rationalize. They tell themselves they'll restart later. This just wasn't the right time. And if this has ever happened to you, I want you to hear this. This pattern isn't laziness. It's a nervous system crash. So let's get a slightly better idea of what the brain's actually doing here. First, let me introduce these two studs, Koob and Volkow. Here they are collecting their Lifetime Achievement to Science Award. Now, I don't know for sure which two they are, but my unconscious bias is willing to take a crack and say it's the two old men. Now, they were studying why people relapse even when they genuinely want to change. And what they found explains far more than just addiction. It explains modern burnout, binging, procrastination, and why we just can't seem to stick to, well, anything. Here's what they found. Repeated self-control pushes your brain into threat mode. So every time you force behavior that your nervous system experiences as stressful, that could be extreme dieting, rigid schedules, sleep loss, constant pressure, possibly even shame, your brain releases stress hormones. Now, at first, the adrenaline and cortisol is pretty fueling for you. But over time, the system shifts. Stress hormones in shorter bursts are really powerful. But when they're released for prolonged periods of time, your brain starts to interpret your own goals as a source of threat. When your nervous system starts to make these changes, it means that your brain stays stuck in emergency mode. This makes your emotions get louder and harder to manage, and the part of your brain that makes calm, sensible decisions starts to switch off. So you don't just feel tired, your brain literally becomes less capable of regulating itself. The next thing that they found is that under chronic stress, dopamine receptors become less responsive. Now, this is huge because dopamine is a signal that says this is worth starting. And as sensitivity drops, motivation drops, reward feels muted, effort feels heavier, and pleasure flattens. So you experience the old, I know what to do, I just can't make myself do it. Again, this isn't laziness, it's literally a neurochemical fatigue. Next, they found that stress pushes behavior out of the decision-making cortex and into what's called the basal ganglia. This is kind of the unconscious habit center where really well-ingrained habits live. All the things you do now without much thought, making coffee in the morning, brushing your teeth, binge eating a takeaway after a stressful day, these live in the basal ganglia. This push means you become less flexible, you fall back to what your nervous system already knows gives relief, things like scrolling, eating, avoiding, numbing, and not because you choose to, but because your brain literally routes you there. All these changes are why people often say, I don't feel like me anymore. I used to be disciplined, I've lost my drive. But they haven't lost anything. Their nervous system has just shifted into survival mode, and survival mode trades growth for safety. Now, this is the hard pill to swallow. The harder you try to force change under chronic stress, the more your biology adapts against your goals. Not because it hates you, but because it thinks it's protecting you. And it's not just Koob and Volkow that have unearthed these findings. In fact, when we look at habit formation, behavior change, and addiction, there is a huge body of evidence pointing in a similar direction. Now, before we get onto what we should be doing about all this, instead of just shoving the square peg that is willpower in our already very sore round hole, there are two important findings I really think we should look at. One is that relapse gets worse, not better. In long-term studies on addiction and binge eating, we saw that rigid abstinence creates stronger rebound behavior. People don't just slip, they overshoot. It's the brain's fight to restore some level of emotional stability. And two is that shame makes all of this way worse. Brain imaging shows that shame activates threat circuits. Those circuits shut down planning and increase impulse relief seeking, which means that guilt biologically pushes you back to comfort habits. So, what actually creates change, especially when life is busy and stressful? Number one, you don't need more discipline. You need lower threat. Most people think their life is hard, so they just need to try harder. But your nervous system is saying, my life is hard, so I need more safety. And chronic stress tells your nervous system, stay alive, don't grow. So real change starts with one question. What would make my nervous system feel even slightly safer? Not perfect, not calm, just less under attack. That might be slightly earlier bedtimes, one pre-planned or pre-prepared meal, maybe just 10 minutes alone, a predictable routine, or removing a single daily stressor. If habits are what we're trying to grow, safety is the soil. I'm sorry that's so wank, but it really is a fair analogy. Number 2, build habits for your real life and not your best days. Most habit plans are built on optimism. They assume the version of you who slept well, has time, and feels motivated will show up every day. But we all know that real life doesn't work like that. Real habits are not built for your best days. They're built for your tired days, your stressed days, your days where all the annoying things just come out the woodwork. So the real question isn't how much can I do? It's what version of this habit still happens on my worst normal day? Not your crisis day, just your normal hard days. Because if your habit only survives the good weeks, it's not a habit, it's a mood. And this isn't pessimism, it's realism. And it's also how you make your habits unbreakable. Number 3 is keep intensity low so repetitions can stay high. Your nervous system doesn't wire ambition. It wires repetition. And the part of your brain that builds habits strengthens what it sees often, safely, and calmly. So intensity is the enemy of automaticity, if that is a real word. Big bursts feel impressive, but tiny reps are how you actually change your brain. 10 squats every day will physically rewire you faster than 90 minutes twice a week, because your brain strengthens what you repeat and not what you plan. Doing this is how behavior becomes effortless in the future. And low intensity also helps keep you below that threat mode. Number 4, replace emotional regulation. Don't just remove habits. Overeating, scrolling, drinking, procrastinating, these are not just bad habits. They're your nervous system's coping tools. So before you remove them, you absolutely must replace the relief that they provide. Instead of scrolling, we might try to do a relaxing activity that holds your focus. When we feel the desire to binge, we might choose more protein-rich foods. Instead of reducing stress through alcohol, we might go for a walk to wind down at the end of the day. If you try to just delete the old shortcut, your brain will quietly reinstall it because it knows that it works. Number 5, use identity-based change. People don't rise to their goals. They fall to their self-image. Identity-based motivation research shows that when behaviors feel like who I am, it requires less effort and survives more stress. You're not trying to become motivated. You're becoming the kind of person who just does the thing gently, repeatedly, and safely. Identity-based change is one of the fastest growing areas in behavior research right now, and it explains so much about why some people change easily and others just burn out. It's too important to squeeze into this video, so we're going to do a full deep dive on it next. So if you don't want to miss that, hit subscribe. Number 6, your environment is 50% of your willpower. Your nervous system is lazy by design, also known as efficient. So change your surroundings. The food that's visible gets eaten. So maybe have apples on the counter instead of the leftover box of celebrations. Having your gym clothes laid out makes going to the gym way more likely. And if the bedroom looks inviting, the odds of that early night suddenly skyrocket. Design beats discipline. Number 7, compassion is not soft. It's a neurobiological strategy. Doesn't that sound sexy? Shame pushes you into threat mode. And threat mode strengthens old habits. So we know that shame pushes you into threat mode and threat mode strengthens old habits. Whereas self-compassion moves you back into the learning mode. This means that kindness literally makes you more consistent. Not emotionally, but biologically. So to summarize, if you find it impossible to make change, you're not broken. You might just be overloaded. And an overloaded nervous system needs different rules, not more pressure. That's it from me. I hope this helps. Be sure to like and subscribe for more simple advice on health and fitness. And if you enjoyed this video, our YouTube overlords think you'll love this next one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.